I know this is against the VST vibes,
Yeah?
but I was going to press the button.
Oh, do it.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is the Zeta is this version of Zeta.
What does that mean?
So okay,
Use your words carefully.
a bit of Desert Bus history, because we are the archivists.
The archivists.
Zeta was the first shift to develop a identity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where are those people now?
It wasn't even a shift. It
Yeah.
was just like, this was the
It was a
Zeta
radio
time.
show.
People would radio shows were involved.
Yeah.
People would back in the day when Desert Bus was not as well organized and scheduled as it is today, and people were younger and made choices.
Yep.
People would stay later at Desert Bus than perhaps was wise. And I think Quap o'clock was one of the terms that was used.
That was great.
Things happened after midnight at Desert Bus, and so it became known as Zeta Shift, and Zeta Shift developed a reputation, and then the other parts of the day, I think it was at Desert Bus 8, or about then, that the other shifts were named.
Named it 8.
Zeta was named before that, back in Moonbase Mark III.
Yep.
That's how I keep track of what happened at which Desert Bus is, what Moonbase or Lunar module had happened in.
That's a
Same.
good idea. Yeah.
So all the Moonbase Mark III ones blur together, and a lot of the modern ones blur together because you dress the set so similarly.
Tend to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
And Zeta sort of changed over time as people rotated to different shifts and sort of developed a more chill overnight vibe. But I'm now going to press the button.
Yeah, do it.
I found that commercial. I
Yeah.
found that commercial and sent it to Andrew, and he sent me Peach in all caps, and I knew that it was in. At that point, I'm so happy it fired while I was
I'm
here.
glad we got a troll.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Great way to end that little story, too, actually.
Classic
Now they have their
Zeta.
own attitude. Troll.
Old Zeta hereby formally acknowledges no wrongdoings for any past clopping.
Yeah.
I also love, Chrusher, how you were suggesting, like, how the sets became, very similarly decorated. They were decorated at all was a fairly major change. The fact that we were thinking about, like, what should go in the background of these shots, as opposed to, let's just point a camera in that direction and hope for the best.
Sometimes we put carpet down.
Yeah.
It's true, we did.
Desert Bus 8 was great because we had, there were just couches there, and I don't know where they came from.
Or where they went.
Yeah, or where they went. I think they were just part of that office, that they had these old couches. I think we inherited them to just do the thing with. And then we got couches thanks to megacynics.com.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I also remember being, like, as somebody who was on the morning shift, or at least would come in the morning,
Yeah.
before the shifts were a thing, being, like, slightly annoyed that whenever, like, we would do anything funny and weird, people would be like, "Oh, this is so Zeta."
Yeah.
We're like, "Hey, no, we're just being funny and weird.
Yeah.
We don't need to be all Zeta funny weird."
No. Yeah, that same energy can persist through all of this week, and I'm glad that, it does at so many different times a day. Yeah. Obviously, I wonder if viewers have their own little pet shifts, that they're like, I'm awake during Dawn Guard, like, this is like the middle of the day for me.
100%.
Like, I always just watch Dawn Guard and that's it now. And it's like, yeah, you get used to that kind of personality.
It's kind of 50-50 because some people like the, I get to see Zeta and I love them because I'm in New Zealand and Zeds.
Yeah.
And then other people are just like, every time I tune in, it's the same thing with the same people.
I always liked, there's a Cory Doctorow book called Eastern Standard Tribe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
where it talks about this idea of like in the age of the internet, your tribe, your group, your in group doesn't have to be the people who are close to you.
Right.
It's just another, it can be just a group that you find out there somewhere, and they're not necessarily in your time zone.
Right.
And so you have people who are, on the West Coast who are actually sort of secretly on the East, they're like secretly on the East Coast because of they've adjusted their sleep schedule because all the people they're interested in talking to are on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So they're sort of, the way he puts it is like they're sort of like, infiltrators or they're like,
It's counterculture.
counterculture, yeah. That they're like secretly East Coast people, but they just happen to be living on the West Coast.
Having friends around one of the wonderful things about Desert Bus is you get to know people.
Yeah.
And I have met a lot of friends through being at the event and also helping with the VST, and also people it happens that people from chat meet up and become friends.
Mm-hmm.
But having friends in a lot of time zones does not help me going to bed at a reasonable hour.
That's fair. That's fair.
You're having an interesting conversation or you're doing something, and you really should go to bed. But
Yeah. But it's really good. Why not just stay up that extra 20 minutes? If
yes, 20 minutes.
You know how it is. It's like, well, if it's 4:40 right now, if I go to bed, I have to wake up at like 7. I'm only going to get 3 hours of sleep. So if I just use those extra 20 minutes and actually then go to bed at 5 or whatever, it's like I'll get the 3 hours of sleep that I need, and that'll make much more sense. And then you're awake and it's 5:15. You're like, well, I'm already into the 5 o'clock hour, so I'll just talk until 5:30 because then I'll get 2.5 hours of sleep, because you don't want to have weird 15-minute increments. So then you stay up until 5:40 and you're like, oh no, well that's okay. I'll just stay awake another 20 minutes and I'll go to bed, because I always sleep for exactly an hour every single time. That's how I do it.
And then at a certain point, you're like, well, there's no point in going to bed for just an hour.
Yeah.
I'll just stay up.
Yeah. It'll be good for me.
That works when you're younger. That sort of logic doesn't work quite so well. So I was in Australia early in the year,
Nice.
and I was hanging out with Ikem, sorry, someone I've met through Desert Bus, and I had a morning flight, and Ikem is one of the people whose schedule is different than people in the time zone that he lives in, and so I thought it was a good idea to stay up all night, and then I'm going to sleep on the plane. I stayed up all night and then didn't sleep on the plane.
Oh no.
And I was completely wrecked
Yeah.
when I got back.
Oof.
Yeah, I'll sleep on the plane is one of those sort of little lies you tell yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do a bunch of work on the plane. It's like, I have this presentation that I have to do. Well, that's okay. I have a bunch of time on the plane. I'll do it then.
One of my favorites is the Zeta trap, where we say we're going to do a giveaway and then we go on a digression.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, the agent